Hey everyone, so in this video we're going to be discussing the general gist of the type tools that you're going to find working with Adobe Illustrator, Photoshop, and InDesign. So this is going to be a really quick overview of the type tools inside of these programs because frankly we could spend like hours talking about the actual type tools that you're going to find. We just really want to quickly discuss them. And we're also going to have the opportunity as we continue through these videos, like once we get into the user experience section, and we actually start building designed materials, like an app splash screen we're going to make and a flyer. All those types of things, we're going to get way more into detail in these type tools. This is just going to be a chance for us to really quickly discuss some of the control you have over type in these tools. So you can tell I have Adobe Illustrator open right off the bat, and this document is basically a persona sheet describing one of our end users. This was strictly for research while we were doing some general work to a particular application, and we wanted to attempt to make the user experience a little bit more friendly. So we built these persona sheets about particular users that we found had the most potential for using the app and that we wanted to specifically target. So we talked about what they were expecting from the app, etc., etc. Now, enough of that, let's get into the actual type tools that you're going to use. So if I just hit T on my keyboard, I immediately jump into the type tool that Adobe Illustrator has. I could also find it off to the left panel. However, I just like hitting T. Anytime you could use a shortcut, you're saving yourself time, so get used to that. It is the same in any Adobe Creative Cloud program, or at the very least, the three that we're going to be using throughout this series of videos. So if I just click anywhere in that paragraph, I am immediately shown a few special options just from doing that. I am shown what Adobe likes to call the font book, which really is your typeface collection, if you will. So all your various typefaces that you have access to are going to show up right there. Also all your fonts, so all of your variations of said typeface that you're using, those are going to show up as well. And last but not least, your font size is going to come up too. So you get a lot of options right off the bat. Now, to get a little bit more specific, we can jump into either the character panel or the paragraph panel, depending on what our needs were. We went into the paragraph panel, and here, just for the sake of discussion, if I selected that entire paragraph and go up to the paragraph panel, you're going to see I can control, of course, whether it's aligned in the center, aligned to the left, if it's going to be justified, all of those particular circumstances. If I'm going to allow hyphenation, which considering this text isn't in a text box, quote unquote, it's not going to necessarily give me some of those controls. For instance here. Now, Adobe InDesign basically requires you to put text within a text box. Adobe Illustrator gives you a little bit more control, but if I'm using the type tool and I just click and drag, I'm going to create either a square, rectangle, whatever my shape may be. And if I let go, now I have some more control from that paragraph panel. So here, if I just start, in fact, how about this? Instead of putting placeholder type or just spelling out ridiculous letters, let me just put that in there and close my layers panel. So if I select this, go to paragraph, I have a little bit more of those justifying controls. I can remove hyphenation, which I'm lucky enough to not have any in this paragraph. I can control whether there is an indent on the left or the right or just the top lines of each paragraph get pushed in. You have a lot of control within your actual paragraph structure from the paragraph panel. Now, if we jump into the character panel, this is where some of those beginning vocabulary terms get brought into account. So we're going to have full control of our leading, we're going to have full control of kerning and tracking, all of those various circumstances. We can make this small caps, meaning that capitals are larger capitals and lowercase are replaced with just a smaller version of the capital. in certain styles. That's actually really helpful in this particular document, and most, frankly, that is kind of avoided. So we'll just go ahead and turn that off. Now you're going to see the touch type tool up here. This is something that Adobe introduced to Illustrator relatively recently. Like, I'm trying to think here, it was probably 4 or 5 months ago, I think, that they introduced this. I'm going to be honest right off the bat, this is a really consumer looked at tool. So it is not something you're going to be using in the industry hardly ever. I think the example Adobe used for like uses you can use a touch type tool with was a tiki bar, where they basically just made all the letters really goofy, yet it was still editable as if just being text. That's great for a tiki bar, but how often are you actually going to design for a tiki bar? When do you actually see those, unless you're like in Hawaii or something like that? So it's not something we're going to look at in this. We're going to look at specific tools they're actually going to get use out of, hopefully on a daily basis. The type on a path tool is actually really quite helpful, and every once in a while the vertical type tool I have found useful as well. So here, if we just type off on the artboard here, you're going to see the type, now that we have the vertical type tool selected, instantly begins typing vertically just like it says. So in some circumstances that's actually kind of a cool stylistic touch you could put on things. That's really probably about as far as we need to go talking about just general paragraph and character control in Adobe Illustrator.